Good morning and happy Friday, March 31st, 2017. And today we're going to be talking about the iLvL changes in World of Warcraft that came out this past patch 7.2. And what this change is that as your iLvL increases, the mob's hit points increase. Plain and simple. But is it? Because not only their hit points increase, but their damage is increased as well. So what's the problem with that change? Well, for the most part, if you are playing your main character and you've been playing since the beginning of Legion, you didn't notice too much of a change if you were playing one of those high-level DPS classes. But if you're playing a Holy Priest, for example, and a mob goes from 1.3 million hit points to 2.1, you notice that change pretty quickly. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that the change isn't fair across the board for every class, because you're used to hitting a monster that has a certain amount of hit points that hits you for a certain amount of damage as that Holy Priest. To artificially increase that because your gear score is at a 900 is just wrong. It kind of invalidates all of the progress that you've made up until that point. But why would the developers have made this change? Well, Ian says that we were screwing with the power curve. Unintentionally screwing with the power curve as players. So what he wanted to do, in a nutshell, is decrease the speed at which we were killing mobs. And he says, and this is accurate, I kind of feel this is accurate, that once your method of playing focuses on spamming an instance to tap a mob before it dies, kind of breaks everything. I kind of agree with that. I kind of don't approve of that. But in that same instance, if you have one mob and 15 people are hitting it, it should evaporate. It should evaporate. And he also says, once you get down to a duration of 1 or 2 global cooldowns, the game just wasn't built to support that norm. It's kind of accurate. I mean, if you think back all the way back to the vanilla, nothing was ever going down at 1 or 2 global cooldowns. So the developers were concerned that we were trivializing content. Now, what confuses me is that Ian says that we've never had the initial outdoor world content stay relevant for this long in an expansion before. So what that tells me is that the outdoor world content was still relevant Monday before they implemented the iLvL changes. And now all of a sudden Tuesday they're not. I don't understand that, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I think that they were doing a really good job as far as scaling players versus mobs. I mean, I was evaporating mobs as a Holy Paladin before this change, and after the change, I was, I guess, kind of evaporating the mobs pretty quickly. I mean, single targets were okay. But I did notice the change. If they've never had the initial world content stay this relevant for this long in an expansion before, why make the change? Because you're doing better already. And if you're doing better already, don't fix what ain't broke, right? So now let's get to the one of the big issues that I have, and that is integrity. Did the developers lie to us? I wanted to say no. I wanted to say kind of. But as soon as you say kind of, you kind of have to say yes. And I do feel that things in the game have changed from a developer point of view, and that although Ian said that in September or somewhere around there of last year that they wouldn't be doing mob scaling to your iLvL, things have caused him to go back and rethink that. And that's okay. But you need to keep your players informed. And it's important to remember that although this is a business where you provide a service, players still make the game. I'm not saying that literally, of course. But, for example, if you're running a D&D campaign and your players don't show up, guess what you're not running? Even though you spent hours planning everything out. giving them a great adventure, designing everything, but they don't show up, you don't have a game. Well, did they lie to us? Yes. Yes, they did. He did say that this was a change that they wanted. This reflects a deliberate change, but it's also not working exactly as we intended. And that intent is you found out about it because we totally didn't do it right. Because we shouldn't have been doing it, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where you can just tell that it's going to get fucked up. Pardon my language. Trigger warning. Might be swearing. But this change is just so wrong that karma will never let it work properly. It's just never going to happen. Ian says that it was not to be deceptive, and that's why they didn't include it in the patch notes. He knows it's impossible to hide a change from millions of players. Okay, so I noticed this change when I was switching back and forth between my tank spec and my holy spec on my paladin. And I didn't even think that it was because of my iLvL at the time. I was like, this mob has 1 million hit points while I'm tank spec'd. Well, I'm holy spec'd, it has 1.8 or thereabouts. Well, that's weird. Considering I don't do as much damage on my holy paladin as I do on my tank. That's just weird. And what they really wanted to get from us was, I quote, "Your feedback and reactions and first impressions of the system are more useful in this particular case when they are not skewed by the experience of logging in and actively trying to spot the differences." So what he said is that I'm not going to tell you, and I kind of hope you don't notice it. That's kind of what he wants. So is that deceptive? That is deceptive, and deception is a lie. So yes, the developers did lie to the players. There's no question. So are these changes actually going to make the game better? No. No, they're not. They are going to make the game much worse. If the developers feel like they can get away with doing silly stuff and backhanded stuff like this, then no, the game is not going to get better. Because what this is a clear view into the inner workings of Blizzard's development team and how they view the players. When you start lying like this, it's also going to change your corporate mentality. And once something like this gets in there, this lack of integrity, it's going to disintegrate a development team real quick. Right now, I guarantee you that there's developers losing sleep over this. Right now, I guarantee that there's a developer or two that are going, we should have never implemented these changes, we should have told everybody. So what are my concerns about this change? Well, I'm concerned that on my Holy Paladin, I won't be able to kill things quickly, I won't be able to get things done in a timely manner, and that my gear won't matter when I get it. Oh yay, I got that nice 865 breastplate, 10 eye levels higher, but mobs go from 1 million hit points to 1.2 because I put on this breastplate. Yeah, that's horseshit. That is not a good change. It's never going to be a good change. And yes, I'm kind of upset about it. On the forums, there's a lot of concerns from both sides of the aisle. You have some players saying that they didn't notice the change at all. And if I was a 9-10 rogue, I probably wouldn't notice the change either. Whereas you have people saying, like, no, this is a bad change. I can't kill things as quickly and you're taking away rewards. But the people who already have the rewards are okay with it. And they're going back and forth on the forums, and it's kind of funny. Oryx says that they're going to be removing the increase in damage dealt by creatures in the world, which is great. Remove the hit points too. I'm not worried about damage as a healer. I'm worried about the time it takes for me to kill them. When I go up and I smack it for 300,000 points of damage with one attack, and then another 300,000 points with another attack, and then I might get a 500,000 point crit. I don't want that. I don't care about the damage dealt because I'll heal it and I'll heal everybody else around me. It doesn't matter. Well, Oryx also goes on to say, this kind of aggravated me a little bit. It should also be noted that this change was on patch 7.2 PTR and has been since January. We didn't communicate anything about it initially because we wanted to get testers' raw and honest feedback about it when they encountered it themselves, rather than attempting to preempt or otherwise influence their opinions ahead of time. When that feedback never came, we assumed that meant it was an acceptable change. I am nearly certain people in the PTR posted stuff about it and that it was not acceptable. But he goes on to say, i.e., those who hadn't noticed it weren't bothered by it, and those who had noticed it thought it was fine. Clearly, that was a false assumption, and we should have drawn attention to it later in the PTR cycle so that we could have caught these issues before patch 7.2 went live. I wasn't on the PTR. Not in the least bit. I don't go on the PTR. Those are for way more dedicated players than me. But when you sit back and think about this, and you think about how this change makes you feel, we're going to go all feel, hippie feel now. It doesn't feel like a good change. I mean, the Blood of Sargeras vendor allowing you to buy multiple things at the same time, that feels like a good change. But the iLvL, that doesn't feel good. And you know why? It's because they're cutting off your power. The power that you earned, and you are right to be upset about it. So how do I feel about it in a nutshell? Is this the worst change that's ever happened in an MMO? No. I lived through the Star Wars Galaxies combat upgrade and rebalance twice. And I love that game. I'd still be playing that game today. They didn't do that. However, well, this isn't a video about Star Wars Galaxies. So in closing, should you be concerned about this change? You should absolutely be concerned about this change. Should you be concerned that developers lie to you? Yes. Yes, you should be. Should you be concerned that your power is being taken away from you, power that you spent time in game earning? I mean, time is equal to life. Time is money. And when you went and earn something and then somebody takes it from you without your permission, that's kind of bad. So I feel that this change is going to be rolled back. I don't think that they're going to go ahead with this change. I bet you Tuesday next week, someone remind me, take a look at it. I bet you Tuesday next week, what would that be? That would be April 4th. Bet the change is rolled back. But anyway, that's it to the video, guys. Hope you have a great day. Have a great weekend. I will see you sometime next week. Probably Tuesday, after they release some patch notes, hopefully. That was me knocking on wood. See ya.